I guess I've been preparing for this type of stuff for a long time. Like I'm somewhat of a prepper. Like I've kept a fairly detailed, like I'm always ready basically for, like various civil unrest is, one of the higher likely ones, but forest fire, stuff like that, those kind of evacuations, I'm just always prepared for it because it's just, the writing has been on the wall for a long time. I mean, I don't, I don't know what to tell you if you're not expecting more of this, but it would be nice if somehow we were going to get out of this, these kinds of weather patterns and increased wild weather without these types of situations. But I don't see it personally. I mean, I've been watching the numbers for a long time, and it's basically doing exactly what one would predict based on the data that we've been collecting. So it wasn't. I think because I'm used to just taking care of myself for the most part. Like it's usually just me and my dog, and I don't get to, because I think there's a part of me that's kept that freedom on purpose. Certainly with kids, like I made a conscious decision a long time ago that I didn't want the responsibility of kids for several different reasons, but one of them was I just didn't like the way things were trending globally. So I guess because I've kept myself relatively prepared and in a position to move around quickly, it wasn't a lot of like, there was no panic or anything. And then because Colleen is so level-headed, she's so intelligent, she was an emergency doc in South Africa, for God's sake. This is nothing for her. Like this,
yeah,
no big deal at all. So she, tends to stay calm, and her kids were, I think, I was shocked because I couldn't believe that we were in that imminent danger that quickly. So, and then just seeing the kids' reaction, like hearing Colleen's daughter say, like, I'm scared, and and then the kind of just the visceral reality of being like, like this is, I don't know for sure what's going to happen here. And we'd planned to, because the first thing I try to do is get away from where I think people are going to be. And so we planned a route that would take us out of Kelowna to a lower density area, because people are generally the problem. And that is what happened here in Glenmore is people started showing up to watch the fire, and they ended up blocking the highway. So it's it's just, when you get the bigger the bigger the event, the more people accumulate, and then this mentality sets in, and people become the real. Like that's what I'm actually more concerned with. Usually, is people in large groups doing dumb things. So I was happy with kind of the way we planned ahead of that, and we were like the second ones out of here, and then we were able to get to the other side of the city and be looking back down, and that was. So we got some elevation. We were on like the Highway 33 side, which is east of Kelowna, and we just stopped. We had both the vehicles and got out and looked back down. And West Kelowna looked like a volcano had erupted and was just pouring fire down the side of the mountain. Then you could see where it had crossed over, and then you could see all the firefighting activity where we'd left, and all the people, like all the lights that people parked, and it looked like a war zone.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then because of your job and your partner's job, you both kept working.
Well,
what was it like to, given what we've talked about so many times about like just our interactions with our jobs, interactions with the public, the stress of the daily grind, and then throwing this uncertainty about your own home and where you're going to go, and uncertainty about where you're going to stay, and then I know what the public can be like in those moments too that can present some challenges. What was that like on a day-to-day working?
Well, I ended up having to take I took some time off because I didn't want to, like, I everyone that I had worked with, I had spoken to them about what their status was with COVID and everything, and everyone had it. So I just waited until like I was not testing positive before, but I still like, I mean, I don't know like how long it's going to take. Maybe, what am I on here? Maybe day 10, or it's got to be close to 2 weeks, or maybe no, day 10 is probably closer to it. But anyway, it was, so I think normally it would have been, it was very stressful, Corey. It was very stressful. How about that?
That's fair. Yeah.
To the point where, because everyone is stressed, right? And, the people that we service there were being displaced. Many of them have respiratory issues and are not in great shape. So, they're trying to stay sheltered, and there are, like, some of the shelters do have pretty good air conditioners and stuff, so that helps somewhat. But I think the staff in those facilities, everyone's just feeling that extra kind of intensity, and so you're getting more people kicked out because I think the people who are working there are just on edge and they're tolerating less, and so you're getting more people losing services, and then you get people who are just wandering around the streets, basically coughing their brains out for 3 days in the smoke, right? Mm-hmm. And then having to move multiple shelters, like that must have been. I can't imagine what that was like for the facilities themselves. It was a logistical nightmare on our end for sure, and I just found that. And then when you're not feeling too good too, like it's interesting how I try to be compassionate, and I try to have patience, and I try to be tolerant, and man, does that go out the window quickly when the worse I feel, the harder it is for me to give a fuck. I start getting to where I'm like, and then I start seeing things like that's the other thing I've noticed since all this has happened, is my attitude has really nosedived, and I regardless of how I feel, I'm going to have to do something about that, because it's really starting to. I think it's all kind of piling up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just I see this, I see everything that's happening. So I see the people in the store, and I look and I see what. I'm watching the numbers, and I'm, listening to, here's another guy that was here yesterday and he's dead. And here's another, and I'm, doing the calculations on, forecasting this current methods that we're using right now, and trying to extrapolate what it's going to look like. And in the next 3 years, we're getting a big, they're going to dump 6 billion in here. We're going to go into the next 3 years, 6 billion more into BC's healthcare system, which is fine. It's a good thing to do. So we're going to be running a deficit. But the problem is, I look at it and I think it's not going to work. It's not going to work like this. It can't. We might be saving the odd life, but we're not. Even if we brought this system up to 100%, it will break the province financially before it does anything to actually stop the problem that we've got going on here. So there's that. And then, when everything is on fire, I think it just kind of adds to my kind of perspective. And I could be wrong here. And who knows what will actually happen here in the next 20 to 30 years. But my whole life, I've kind of watched what the climate change panels have done. And I go through their reports every time they come out, and who knows, you never know what to trust anymore, but every one of their reports that I've read has basically come true, or been more. They've actually been more conservative with their prediction models. So, which could also be, I mean, that could just be by chance, but it doesn't look good. So I guess when I look at all these factors and I look at my life and when I'm feeling like shit, I think to myself,